Thank you. Wonderful song. And I love taking life with a little bit of humor. It's an important part of the spiritual process for sure. Humor allows us to meet challenge with an awareness of the presence of the God, that in the midst of whatever's going on, we can always find something to smile a bit about, even if it seems strange to smile and laugh, because it's a reminder that we are the living presence of the divine and that we truly are never alone. We're currently in the season of Lent, which begins with Ash Wednesday and goes through Easter Sunday. And it's a season of spiritual preparation for the coming resurrection that comes with the story and the morning of Easter. Just like we have preparation of Advent going into our high holy season of Christmas, we have Lent for the high holy season of Easter. These are two of the spiritual soul journey markers that are particularly significant to the Christian path and the Christian message, and that we embody in our lives as well. Jesus was sent to be the great way shower, the master who could show us who we truly are and to help us be who we've been sent to be, and to realize we are all children of the eternal divine God, and that love is the strongest power of all. We're starting in March. Hard to believe it's March already. And this month, we're going to be doing Peregrinatio. You don't have to learn how to pronounce that if it's a bit much. Just remember, it's about seeking and seeking your place of resurrection. Where in the world and in your consciousness is there a place of new life that is calling you to journey towards something new, some new possibility? Lent is one of those thresholds that takes us into this inner spiritual process of preparation, of giving up that which has been so you can welcome and embrace that which is coming, that which is emerging with new life. And by tradition with Lent, you're supposed to give something up. And I remember as a child, my good friends, particularly those who were Catholic, would say, oh, I have to give up something for Lent. And I tried to tell my mother I wanted to give up broccoli for Lent, but she wouldn't let me do that. She said it has to be something you really love. So she made me give up chocolate instead of broccoli. And it focused on releasing as a penance and to create a sense of loss and suffering, whereas in reality, it is meant to be a time where you release what no longer serves you, where you release the aspects of yourself that you'd like to grow spiritually into deeper understanding and broader kindness. It's meant to be used the way I love Unity does, which is release and renew is this year's meditation guide. It's meant to let go of outer attachments so that we can allow spirit to move through us as this flow of fresh life that comes with spring. And then we can give birth to new things because we've created that holy, sacred void. In the stories that we'll come to closer to Easter, Jesus goes through the entire process of Holy Week with all of its being honored and sitting in the midst of beloved friends and then being accused and then put to death and then laid lovingly in a tomb. And he remains there for 3 days before he comes out. And so part of this whole spiritual process of seeking resurrection is finding your way through all the ins and outs and easy places and hard places of life, so that you remember that you are never alone, that Spirit and God are always with you, and that there are times to embrace, there are times to release, and he remains in the tomb, in his place of resurrection, for 3 days, which is a high holy number, the number 3. And then when he comes out, he doesn't just jump back into life, full tilt. He doesn't appear in the middle of the square of the town and go, I'm back, here's my teachings, I've returned. No, he appears in the garden. And gardens are places of growth and transformation and change that are cyclical and yet never ending. That's why the Bible begins and ends with gardens and has gardens and garden imagery all through it. And so he comes out into the garden, only meeting initially Mary Magdalene, someone close and near and dear, who can, at first, doesn't recognize him in her grief, and then hears his voice and recognizes him, and is the person who can see him and accept him in his new transformative shape. And so it's this wonderful reminder that as we go through transformational times and periods where we go within and then reemerge, to do so with deep consciousness and awareness. It was hard to believe, but I realized this week, it's been a year since we've met in person here at the Unity Spiritual Enrichment Center. The first Sunday in March was the last Sunday we were able to be together as we shifted into a ministry that is on Crowdcast and Zoom, and has been a real opportunity for us to realize how linked we are, no matter what's going on. And so a year, who would have thought? I would never have imagined that back then. One of the things that came out right after this began was something that I shared the very first Sunday. After the first Sunday, we were virtual Crowdcast gathering rather than meeting here in person. And it had just been written, I believe the day before, by Lynn Ungar, who's a Universalist Unitarian Poet Laureate. And it's called Pandemic. And it felt important for us because this inspired us as we moved into this time. And I think it's a beautiful inspiration for us as we move back out into our shared world, consciously and gently, step by step. Pandemic. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling, give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life, center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are truly in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands, reach out your heart, reach out your words, reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. And so let us rededicate ourselves and our spiritual community to this practice of allowing the world to unfold and to guide us to new places of connection and possibility and resurrection. Peregrinatio is following the thread. It is wandering to find your true place by faithfully stepping into the unknown. It takes daily tending of our own aliveness and our own consciousness to take each step in the direction that Spirit is calling us. In the book, Christine says, the wandering is an invitation to let go of our own agendas and discover where God is leading. It is setting forth without destination, trusting the currents of divine love. There's a favorite bumper sticker that I've always adored because I've always been a pilgrimage person, a journeyer of the world, both within, through books and reading and praying and meditating, as well as in the outer world. There's a great bumper sticker that says, all who wander are not lost. Just because you don't know exactly where you're going does not mean you're lost. Perhaps you're following the thread of Peregrinatio. Janice Stanfield, our wonderful musical friend that I know that you know as well, has a wonderful song that's one of my favorites. The first time I heard it was at Unity Dallas, probably 25 years ago. And it's, I'm not lost, I'm exploring. It's a wonderful song. I'm not lost, I'm exploring. I'm willing to let the wind carry me to the right and perfect next place and to the next unfolding. She says in her writing that in this profound practice of peregrinatio, of seeking your place in the world, God becomes both destination and way, companion and guiding force. God is the call to the journey and the unfolding of the journey. God greets us at the beginning and at journey's end. The goal of this wandering is always to find the place of our resurrection, the place where our gifts can be brought fully to life for the rest of our days. And so we are getting ready to enter a time where we seek guidance, we seek inspiration, we seek the practical details of how do we resurrect back into the next expression. And it's all about process. Simon and I were talking on Tuesday that we really see this process as something that's not going to be, we're online and then we're back in the building. That we want to bring what we've learned this year together and weave it into this next unfolding. It's part of who we are now. It's part of how we share our love, our presence, and our ministry. And this shift to be a collaborative shift as we bring in the people, the technology, how we're going to do this is something that I am praying that we do with our hands open to receive amazing things and willing to manifest whatever Spirit has in mind for us, individually as well as collectively, because this whole journey, as we've seen through this pandemic, has affected one and all deeply on their personal journey. And many, many people, myself included, have a bit of pandemic exhaustion. And frequently that happens toward the end of a journey. But with the example of Jesus, that's time not to give up, but to journey within and to allow that transformation to be guided by the presence of Spirit. She shared in a workshop I've been blessed to take, the 5 Mondays in February. Christine Walters-Paintner did a series called The Spiral Way in Creativity. And she talked about this process of seeking and how it is part of the creative process. Just like in a garden, the flower doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It emerges from the seed. It comes forth. You see the stalk and the little leaves, and then you see the bud, and then it opens. We want to nurture our moving back into the world together that way, where we do it consciously and lovingly and gently. And she shared this creative process and the 7 steps of Peregrinatio. And I'm just going to go through them briefly. And I invite you to open to what these are. As I tell you each one, think about, where are you in regards to this day? Where would you like to be? Where are you called to be? And so the journey begins by stepping across the threshold. We did that collectively the first of the year when we did our Burning Bowl Vision Quest service. We did it collectively the first Sunday of Lent, where we consciously entered this period of spiritual preparation. But that stepping across the threshold is found as part of the hero's journey as well. And when you cross that threshold, once you step through that portal, you can't ever go back to exactly where you were before, because you've opened in willingness to open your eyes to new life, new possibilities. Next, the next step, after you say, I'm willingly going to open up and step through this liminal space, is to release control of the outcome. That's a tricky one sometimes, because so often when you journey, it's this is where I want to end up. We focus on the destination rather than the journey. One of the things I've loved as I've led and done spiritual pilgrimage is the first thing is to prepare and then to let go of expectations, because whatever you think is going to happen is not what's going to happen. You may end up in the destination, the physical place that you're planning, but the spiritual, emotional, soul evolution place may not be what you expect at all. And so by releasing this control, this expectation of the outcome, by releasing the chocolate that you love and that you want to have be there, you open to allow things to unfold in ways that your control would never allow to happen. Miracles and amazing things happen. Number 3, as you prepare and you journey in willingness, and as you let go of expectations, the next, she said, is to yield to the seasonal rhythm. If you're trying to force the harvest of something that is still in seed beneath the earth, you're only going to be frustrated and find yourself not as connected to that presence of the divine that is found in this moment, not in the moment you wish it was. And so we're sharing right now in the season of spring, which is perfect, I believe, for what we are experiencing collectively. For you individually, you may feel like you're in spring right now. Your season may be different. You may be in the midst of winter. You may be experiencing a sense of summer. Honor not only the collective season with the soul unfoldings it brings, and that it supports naturally, but also honor your own inner season of life. Always trust your inner soul guidance. So now that you've yielded to the rhythms, Allow yourself a journey into discovery, which is a daily willingness to open, to have the eyes like a child. Jesus was so wise when he told him, be like children. See the magic and the wonder and the joy of the world. Color outside the lines. One of the great spiritual practices that's not honored nearly enough, besides gratitude, is curiosity. Curiosity is an invitation to perceive the divine in ways and places you never had before. So see this as a journey into discovery. Be willing, be light-hearted, be like a child, and be curious, explore. You're not lost, you're exploring. The fifth step is to listen to intuitions, dreams, synchronicities, and symbols along the way. Because once you open in willingness and you're curious and you're trusting that that presence is with you, it will show up in all kinds of ways. It will show up in a book that you hadn't thought about that practically falls off the shelf into your hands. It's exactly what you need to read. It will be that dream that comes and gives you a symbol that the next day, as you process with, you realize you've been given a key to unlock some mystery you've been struggling with. It can be a piece of music. You're driving and suddenly a piece of music strikes you. There have been times I've literally pulled my car over and just experienced a piece of music that I know has been sent to meet me in that moment, to bring me comfort and insight and guidance. And so trust those. Look at the world as an encounter with the divine in an infinite number of forms and shapes. The sixth of the seven is to allow the process to unfold organically. Again, that kind of takes you back to step 2, which releasing the control. To allow it to unfold organically is to co-create with the divine, where you're allowing that great master gardener that is God to bring the rain, the sun, the wind, the nourishment to the soil that you need right where you are. And she said this also means allowing the disruption that sometimes needs to take place as part of this organic process of releasing and embracing, of releasing and renewing. So allow the process even when it doesn't look like you think it should. That's a huge growth edge, I know, for me, and I would imagine for many of us. And so allow the process. You stepped into it with faith. You're willingly encountering it each day. Allow that faith and that trust to include the process as it unfolds. And then finally, her last reminder is to embrace traveling in circles as you deepen the process. How many of us realize that we've got perhaps one or a couple of real soul focuses for this lifetime? And I can't tell you how many people in counseling, and me myself, I have said this, am I going through this again? I thought I did the work and I thought I was complete with this. And it's come around again. Part of that is its evolving soul energy that is a spiral with creation. It moves through time and space and meets you where you are. The thing that is the blessing is that when you're doing your soul work, each time an experience comes back, you can hopefully do it with a little more peace and compassion and grace. I've always loved the story of Moses and how they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Geographically, it's a little tiny area. They literally would have had to go in spirals for that amount of time to not get from point A to point B. It's the message in that is be in the process for the amount of time it takes. One of the things about Peregrinatio and seeking your place of resurrection is for some of the Celtic saints that brought them to where they were and they stayed for the rest of their lives, like Saint Columba, who we'll be talking about later in the month on Iona. For some of them, they were called to a place. They experienced what they were meant to experience there, and then they got the next calling. The next calling, come forth and seek your next place of service, your next place of resurrection. Because Peregrinatio is a mysterious journey of unknown length, unknown duration to an unknown location, but there is an end point. As you find your new place and you settle in there and you allow the gifts that it is brought to you to be received, and you offer the gifts that are yours as well. Life is continued adventure and spiritual unfoldings. Going in those circles does not mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're seeking to receive the gifts that are there and to give the gifts that are yours in deeper and higher and broader spiritual ways than ever before. I'd like to close with a wonderful piece from Donna Markova. Let this be a blessing as you go forth on your journey to seek your place of resurrection, and as you encounter this season of spring, as we do this collectively. Let us swing wide all the doors and windows of our hearts on their rusty hinges, so we may know how to open to love. Let us see the light in the other and honor it, so we may lift one another on our shoulders and carry each other along. Let holiness move in us, so we may pay attention to its still small voice and give ourselves to life fully with both hands. May you be blessed and blessing. And now music.